Once there was an alternate timeline that existed, a timeline where Goldilocks was in fact a sadistic serial killer, and rather than eating the porridge of 3 talking bears, as she claimed, this was a normal human family that were massacred by her hand. A time where Jack and Jill did not survive the fall at the top of the hill after being pushed by a group of elderly caretakers for a payment of gold. A time where Hansel and Gretel pushed an innocent woman in the oven, lied to the villagers and gained popularity as witch hunters for special privileges. Among them existed Victor, the werewolf. In this video, I will take you through all the creatures and the supernatural beings in Victor's timeline, foes and allies included. These characters and monsters will appear in the videos to come. Therefore, it's important that you know who they are and what capabilities they have, as it saves me time from explaining in every story. This video can also serve as an index or lore, so that in the stories to follow, if you are confused about anything, you can refer back to this video. So, shall we begin? Despite the rarity of knowledge among supernatural creatures in this world, vampires are better known since they were the first supernatural beings to walk the country. All the vampires that you will see here will have unique capabilities, but they do share common traits like heightened speed, hearing, and power. There are 3 classes or grades of such. First grade or higher grade vampires are the oldest and most powerful. They have wings much like bats, but it pushes out their spine during combat. These vampires are also claimed to be the fastest, moving in a wisp of black smoke. Rumor has it that the very first vampire lives in his castle on the outskirts of the country. No one has seen him in almost 50 years, and not a single soul would be dumb enough to go within 100 meters of the castle. His name is Gilroy, and resides in the northwest region. The castle is under a protection spell by the Wizards of 3, which you will learn about later on in the video. Despite the lore that witches and wizards have, the origin of Gilroy still remains a mystery, but there has been one story consistent throughout. The higher vampire massacred an army of demons in one night. So many believe that he was good and a savior of the night until he turned his focus to the human village outside the nearby forest, as he went on a rampage for blood just because the man got bored. Other than sunlight and extreme cold, a wooden stake would not kill him. From the entire village, he turned 120 vampires, abducted 70, and slaughtered the rest. The people that he had taken to the castle are his source of food. Gilroy keeps them chained up in the dungeon below. At least that's the stories that's being told. Louisa Francesca, Gilroy's wife, was also rumored to play a hand in the massacre. Whatever she wanted, the man delivered, no matter the severity of the demand. It was after her death that the vampire went into hiding, a story that will later be revealed. Outsiders have often reported rare sightings of humanoid bat-like creatures that circle the castle. But these are Gilroy's daughters. They have wings just like their father, but are terribly weaker and mainly used for recon of the castle. Only 2 of his 5 daughters remain, as hunters and elves have shot them down. Gilroy considered his girls to be expendable, so whether they lived or died made no difference to him. Their weaknesses are steel arrows, sunlight, and extreme cold. The vampires turned by Gilroy are known as lesser vampires. They cannot fly or turn into vicious monsters, yet share 65% of the higher vampire's power and speed. This group have created many families that occupy the city of Cascada in the southwest region. They feed on humans and are responsible for the many unexplained abductions to the public. Lesser vampires wish to expand their colonies across the country. Sunlight and wooden stakes can also kill them. And then there's Fulian, an unclassified vampire. Unclassified just because his characteristics are awfully strange. Fulian is also one of the oldest vampires, yet behaves unlike the other two groups. While he doesn't have wings, Myra the witch had claimed that he may be a higher vampire from the one time that she saw him change into a monster. But even in this form, despite how he looked, he was a gentleman not just to her, but the entire town. Furthermore, he is the only vampire except Gilroy that can move in a wisp of black smoke. This technique can only be done when his transformation takes place, something that he goes to great lengths just to keep dormant. Fulian has cut off ties with any existing vampire. The young, or shall I say old man, now wishes to spend his life helping others and fighting for the disadvantaged. Hence he became a cop. He has connections with the local vet to feed on wounded animals that cannot be saved. His kindness is unmatched, and his excuses for only working the night shift and the way he looks is rather hilarious. Since he resides in the south region known as Redwater, ordinary folk are oblivious to the supernatural world, except for witches. Though his weakness still lies within sunlight and a wooden stake. Garlic, while a popular ingredient in keeping vampires at bay in folklore, is useless in this particular world. Another important factor is that vampires don't need to be invited into a home to enter. One more handy skill that Fulian the vampire has is to persuade others in telling him the truth. This power can only work on humans that have no supernatural abilities. Fulian will make his next appearance in the Vampire Cop Hunt for Werewolves, a mystery horror story that will show his skills, both deduction and combat, at full capacity, and will shed light on the way he lives his life. The videos with Fulian can be watched as standalone stories but will still link up to Victor's story, so please don't miss those videos. Now let's move on to my favorite. Let us begin with the weakest class of werewolves. They often get mistaken for normal wolves with only their size and the absence of a tail that separates them. The lore has it that these werewolves were naturally born. That is, they are humans that transform during the presence of a full moon. No one knows who the first werewolf was or how they were created. They occupy the northeast region of the country known as Houndsville. A lone werewolf of this kind can be easily killed with any silver item or strong spells from witches, but their advantage lies within their birthright of joining a pack. Each pack will have an alpha and is considerably stronger than the rest. The alpha is the only one that is bipedal, while the rest of the pack will walk on all fours. This is a symbol of his dominance. A pack of werewolves can become troublesome to deal with, especially in the presence of their alpha. While the methods to kill them previously mentioned still stands, it's easier said than done when 10 werewolves have surrounded you and rip out your flesh before you can run. The transformation is absolutely unbearable to endure, especially for first-time werewolves. After the third time, rumor says they get used to their bones breaking and shifting. One more point to note is that the pack cannot turn anyone. Their bite is solely for killing the victim, whereas the alpha determines if someone is worth killing or turning them into a fellow werewolf. The next class of werewolves is where things start getting much darker and more complicated. They are the cursed werewolves. This is not exactly like Victor, but one class before him. Cursed werewolves are not naturally born, rather created for death and destruction. The curse is usually done by either a witch or a demon, and these humans are often the rotten bunch of humanity. That is, they engage in foul practices of witchcraft with their sole intent to serve their master. These werewolves were the same ones that Victor fought and killed in the Curse of the Werewolf Part 1. They do not need a full moon to transform, as this process can be done whenever they see fit according to the incantation. These werewolves lose their sanity and human nature completely when turned. Their bloodlust and rage drives them to kill absolutely anything in their path. Cursed werewolves are much more powerful and faster than the previous class, equal in speed and power to a lesser vampire. Due to their weak minds, they become easier to manipulate and control, thus making them perfect soldiers for demons that walk the earth. The cursed werewolves also have regenerative abilities, which means that they have a healing factor, except for wounds caused by silver. Then you have the special grade werewolves. Victor the Grey Wolf falls under this category. These werewolves are also cursed, but only by an evil demon, which then backfires entirely. The curse works in favor of the one being cursed. The werewolves retain their humanity, conscience, feelings, and can even talk. Their power is either a tad bit short of or equal to that of Gilroy the higher vampire. The downside, however, is the permanent nature of the curse. They become werewolves 24/7 without changing back to their human self. The torture of having memories of a human life, knowing that you can never go back. The men who are cursed are rumored to be part of a prophecy of a righteous man that wanders around every 100 years. It's basically an omen that falls on them, sort of like, why do bad things happen to good people? Part of the prophecy involves the man losing someone dear to him in the most horrific way possible, similar to the death of Victor's wife in the forest. Unlike Gilroy, that is rumored to be the only higher vampire. The category of special class werewolves is somewhat strange. While Victor's curse might be fascinating and somewhat unique, he is not the only special grade werewolf. In fact, one was created way before Victor was even born, and still exists today. His name is Ragnar, the White Wolf. Ragnar is eons ahead of werewolves and vampires in terms of knowledge, experience, power, and speed. The mere sight of him is enough to make an army of demons flee for their lives. The werewolf stands at 8 feet tall and weighs 350 pounds, almost 160 kgs. Once there was a time where warriors were knights. Ragnar was strong and brave, a natural-born leader. One day, when returning home from the great battle of Harrow, the knight was heartbroken by the remains of his life. His wife had left him a note that stated she sought comfort in another man while he was away. The woman had also forsaken their 10-year-old child, so father and son lived in the home filled with emptiness and tried to make the most of life. Ragnar loved the boy more than life itself, and one night as they wandered the forest in search for food, his son was taken before his eyes by an evil demon. The incantation was cast on Ragnar with the hope that he would join the demon ranks, and backfired miserably. The White Wolf spent many years tracking down his son, and unlike Victor, did not have vampires or witches as companions. After retrieving the boy, the demon's head was placed on a wooden stake outside Ragnar's cabin as a warning to others: stay far away. Ragnar is feared not only for his extraordinary power and speed, but his resistance against magic. Being in so many battles over decades, both as a human and a werewolf, has now molded him into an unstoppable force. The only way to kill a special class werewolf is by removing the head. Many have tried, and not lived to tell the tale. What you have seen so far of Victor is merely a fraction of the White Wolf's power, and I don't really want to give away too much of his story in this video, as in the chapters to come in the Curse of the Werewolf, you will see Ragnar's story fleshed out and serve as a vital part in Victor's world. But most importantly, will the White Werewolf be a foe or an ally? Witches in this particular world are quite different from the norm. Most of them are grouped by the powers they possess and the field they chose to advance in, like earth, air, fire, water and space. They do not fly on brooms. Witches are the most beautiful of them all, giving them the natural power to persuade and charm the strongest wills of men and women to fall at their feet. Each of them wear a pendant that indicates which field they belong to and what their specialities are. Much like werewolves and vampires, witch genes are passed down from their parents. If both parties have supernatural powers, the witch will undoubtedly be stronger. There is a constant disdain that humans have towards witches, as they are seen as unclean. Most witches are shunned from towns and villages, or burned at the stake despite their intentions and power to do good. Humans fear what they do not understand, and take the normal approach of better safe than sorry. Though, in some places witches are treated with respect and equality, most use their powers in warding spells or shields for the town or village that's harboring them, and stick to academia. One such witch is none other than Myra. Myra is a 28-year-old woman that resides in the town of Redwater. After being eradicated from every village that she has been to, at last one town has welcomed her with open arms. Redwater is home to an orphanage that Myra handles free of charge, having been an orphan herself. Her source of income is a small remedy shop in Redwater in which she provides treatment to the sickly at a reasonable price. The recipes of potions and ointments are self-made, passed down from her late mother. Myra is seen as the guardian angel of the town, loved by everyone. But do not be fooled by Myra's loving nature, as her powers are nothing to trifle with. The town is under her protection, and she will risk her life to save its people. Myra specializes in portals, not just for relocation of the town's population but summoning creatures for protection. When Fillion was on a much darker path in his vampire life, she was the witch that helped him with his bloodlust. They do share some connection, but relationships with vampires and witches are forbidden. Myra will make herself known in The Curse of the Werewolf Part 5. However, not all the witches share the trait of beauty and goodwill like Myra. While they are young like others, their appearance is rather disgusting, with their rotting flesh and teeth and withered body. These are the witches known as the Crones of the Coven. Their greatest trick is masquerading as a beautiful healer. This is their technique to lure young men and women to their demise. Kind of like catfishing, but on a whole new level. The only way to decipher if a witch is part of the coven is by the color of their dark, moldy hand when performing magic. But people almost never noticed it, since they were so mesmerized by their beauty. The reason why they look this way is because these witches have been practicing the dark arts. They work hand in hand with demons and have a council performing the darkest and most disturbing rituals known to the supernatural world. The goal of the coven is to manipulate the ordinary folk in worshipping evil. They prey on vulnerability and desperation. The crones usually masquerade as house cleansers, in which they discreetly place hex bags into a person's home. This brings bad luck and poor health, almost close to death, which fools the person to desperately offer themselves up to rituals just to get better. The crones also eat humans as an offering to their cause. By these tactics, demons walk the earth freely through possession of the vulnerable. Without the coven, this would not be possible due to natural law, which will be explained in the demon chapter. The crones pose the greatest threat to humanity in damning their souls. Then you have the Wizards of Three. They were the only remaining wizards from the village that Gilroy had slaughtered back in the day. Rather than standing their ground, they submitted to the higher vampire, betraying everything they stood for. They live as captives to the vampire, and are responsible for the force field protection spell around the castle, which prevents powerful beings from entering. The Wizards of Three are the oldest magic-wielding beings and have passed down generations' worth of knowledge to the higher vampire. Some say that Gilroy is as strong as he is from the potions made and given to him by the hands of these wizards, and that's the only reason the higher vampire keeps them alive. But things start to get very interesting when you realize that the Wizards of Three are working for someone else. Contrary to popular belief in fantasy tales, elves and dwarves are not at war with each other in this world. They are the last of their kind and have developed an alliance to strengthen their numbers against werewolves, vampires, and witches. They have relocated and formed their very own town in the land of Freya, located north of the country. This region experiences extreme cold temperatures, working in their favor to prevent an attack from vampires. But werewolves will always be a threat. The dwarven army is led by Berthold, the tallest dwarf at 1.5 meters high. He has timelessly proven his leadership skills, leading his people to victory in many wars. A king that fights his own battles with immense stamina, power, and ruthless aggression. Dwarves, while short, are the best companions to have in battle. Their height allows them to weave and dodge attacks from the larger monsters, and their unique strength lets them wield axes double their size. In close quarter combat, a lesser vampire or werewolf may have some trouble. Elves, on the other hand, are exceptional archers, able to draw and shoot arrows faster than the human eye can blink. Their form of combat specializes in distance, stopping the enemy before they enter the walls. Their close combat techniques, while impressive, are much lesser than that of dwarves. Elves are also good forgers, having the resources and the tools to make unique weapons fit for the warrior wielding it, kind of like tailor-made to one's skill. With this knowledge, elves and dwarves have formed the alliance, harnessing both their strengths and their weaknesses respectively, in creating a town of their own from being the minority. At a distance, elves can stop the danger, and if the town is indeed breached, the dwarves can swiftly take out the enemy with their brutal close combat fighting style. Overall, the friendship is of mutual benefit, and while they do not seek conflict or willingly engage in violence, they can stand their ground united. Dwarves are also excellent resource gatherers. With their broad structure and a raw strength, they gather large amounts of wood for the town, not just for fire but for building homes as well. Hence, either side contributes equally for the betterment of the town. The alliance was sought out by the elven leader, named Eleanor, the first and youngest of her clan to break the tradition and reach out to Berthold to stand united. Elves are also good scouts, light and swift on their feet, able to recon the area without being detected. Eleanor and her uncle scouted the region surrounding them and realized just how quickly werewolves and vampires were increasing in numbers, foes or allies. They decided not only to form relationships with dwarves, but ordinary folk as well. These folk, while having no special skill or share supernatural connotations, are the brave bunch of humanity that fight for survival against the evil that exists. Both men and women are hunters, and even teach their kids at a very young age to be strong and resourceful. However, the race of men have hearts that can be corrupted, bought, and manipulated. The elves and dwarves are unaware of the shady truces their own hunters are making with witches, demons, and vampires. 6 men were sent by the crones to spy on the land of Freya, revealing weak points in the town's defenses. The elves and dwarves have no idea that sometimes the enemy is hiding within the walls of your own home. Elves, dwarves, vampires, and werewolves may be at war, but there is one common thing that they agree on. They all want the crones to die. But the mystery lies in one troublesome question. Why hasn't anyone killed them yet? Long time ago, demons used to show up on Earth and collect the souls of the damned themselves. They are evil, despicable and vile monsters forged in the very fires of hell. Their nature is filled with trickery and deceit. Rather than solely taking the lives of those who sold their souls to them, the demons would also target children and the elderly. Though, this soon changed when Ragnar the White Werewolf ripped the head off the strongest demon at the time. After 100 years, the demons are petrified to walk the earth because of him. The uncertainty and the impulsive nature of Gilroy the Higher Vampire also poses a threat to demons. Hence, they found an alternate way to carry out their operation. There are some humans on Earth that do not need manipulation, vulnerability, or desperation to turn to the dark side. These people wish to serve the army of hell, and without hesitation, sacrifice themselves in their name. An example of such a human was Fuji. When this man sacrificed himself, died and reached hell, he became a lesser demon known as Archine, the one responsible for Victor's curse. This group of people become loyal servants to the demons of hell. There are thousands of them waiting to be commanded. The higher demons send them on missions just to retrieve souls as part of the contract. Despite them being expendable, they equip their servants with unique powers and aid on their journey. Such powers are the abilities to shapeshift. They take on their human form when sent back, yet are able to change into monsters or beings equivalent to their ranking. In this form, more souls can be collected at a faster rate. I have already mentioned the part the crones play in all of this, weakening the spirit of ordinary folk, persuading them in practicing rituals. The higher demons cherish the crones more so than their loyal servants, as they serve as a gateway to hell. The humans turned into demons are not informed about the consequences of the mission. The longer they spend on Earth, the more their bodies wither, becoming weaker with each passing day. Archine was one of the few that figured this out. He transformed into giant terrifying creatures, collecting souls, and then he realized that if he abandoned this mission and devoured souls for himself, then he could get stronger. The higher demon received word of this insubordination and banished Archine from returning until he collected double the number of souls initially needed. If failed, then Archine will be tortured for all of eternity. The higher demon in question is known as Zelza. For those who watched part 4 and wondered where the Hellhounds came from, they were sent by him. These are his beloved pets, and are trying to get rid of Victor so Archine can work in peace. If any of you remember the village that Victor traveled to in part 1, they were in dire need of medical care. So two questions pop up. Did they sell their souls in the hope that they would get better, hence Archine targeted that village? Or did Archine diverge from his plan to target the innocent, sickly people? I have not written Archine in much detail, and there's reasons for that. Number 1, he is the secondary antagonist, and number 2, he's a villain that needs no sympathy or explanation for what he has done, both as a human and a lesser demon. There is no rhyme or reason for evil. Now, I'm sure that when I talk about angels that most of you will immediately think that they are the saviors of humanity, and that is a big nope. Angels in this fantasy world and timeline do not care for humans in the slightest. In short, they are douchebags. The angels believe the only solution to any problem is from wiping out humanity. They were supposed to prevent humans from reaching out to demons, yet stand back and watch it unfold before their eyes, almost like an excuse for their cause. The elderly, sickly, and the dying pray to them, yet none of them have ever responded. Angels also have this belief that humans should not turn to dark practices in times of desperation, a point that actually makes sense. But they treat the faithful in the exact same manner. No help, no guidance, no signs of any miracle. People are being wiped out in numbers, and while they could stop it, they don't. They are extremely powerful beings, a celestial level of strength, and have the most majestic wings that has ever been seen. Angels are equipped with impenetrable armor just in case they might fight demons at their level of strength. They are warriors to say the least, but far from noble or brave. Now, when it comes to monsters, I don't really see the need to go in depth with their features. Therefore, consider this chapter as more of a visual representation of the type of monsters that you will see in this world. There will be no shortage of the variety of creatures found in Victor's story. Those who've seen part 4 now know the 5 monsters that Victor has to fight. Furthermore, you would have noticed that each part of the country has a different climate. The land of Freya, for example, is more towards the colder side, hence there will be snow monsters. Therefore, every area will have different creatures associated with their particular climate. I also know that my subscribers have requested me to do longer videos, so in the comments do let me know the desired length of the stories that you would like me to do, and I will be glad to do so. And for those who are new to Victor's world, to save you time and trouble, just watch part 4, as it has the recap included. If I am being completely honest, I never intended to further Victor's story. When I wrote the adaptation for Red Riding Hood, I thought this was a cool standalone story of interpreting the classic tale differently. What if the big bad wolf wasn't so bad after all? That video was liked more than usual, with people asking for a backstory on Victor. Hence I wrote The Curse of the Werewolf. Once more, I never intended on making the third part, till my subscribers started taking a liking to the werewolf story of revenge. If you have noticed, it's been a while since I have uploaded anything Victor related, and now you may know why. It is extremely difficult to create a fantasy world with a variety of supernatural beings and trying to make the world consistent and make sense. More importantly, this world must be worth my subscribers' time. There is one recurring question that gets asked a lot, is how do I write these stories if I use third-party tools or apps? And the answer still remains the same: I don't. This channel started way before ChatGPT, and because these stories are original, it unfortunately does take time. Often I may get writer's block at the very end and have to rewrite or scratch the story just because it doesn't make sense. Sometimes the writing itself may be great, but the artwork becomes tedious to generate. This is me sharing a piece of my mind with you and trying to provide something fresh and new. Sometimes that will catch, and other times it will fall short. That is the process of originality. Most importantly, I have no words to show my gratitude towards my subscribers that watch and or listen to my stories, despite them not being popular. I wrote 39 stories this year excluding short, and I strive to write more next year. This will be my last video for 2023, and next year January will kick off with Fillion the Vampire Cup. A heartfelt thank you to all for the support, and I hope you stay safe and keep well during the upcoming festive season. Until the next time, do take care.